One of the things I love about having a game collection is the ability to be surprised by it, to go back into the collection and discover or rediscover games you either haven't played or that you forgot about over the years. And that's what happened to me this past weekend. I had a tremendous gaming weekend. One of those weekends where I didn't have anything else to do. I had time off for President's Day. And in fact, as I record this, I didn't go to work today because of a snowstorm. Work was closed. So I had 5 days of time to really dedicate to gaming. And I haven't had that for a while. I haven't gone away from gaming, but I've just been very busy and I just haven't had a chance to engage with the hobby as I would have liked to. So here I had 5 days. And at the start, Friday night into Saturday, for whatever reason, I heard the little sound effect from Metal Slug when you rescue the captives in that game and they say, "Thank you." Just popped into my head. Don't know why. I hadn't thought about Metal Slug in a long time. I haven't played Metal Slug probably in 5 years, but I have a Metal Slug compilation, and I said, "Oh, let me fire up the original Metal Slug." It's one of my arcade memories, and it's kind of interesting because when I did some reading on the series, the original Metal Slug came out in 1996. I thought it was much earlier because, one of my memories as a kid is playing Metal Slug in the arcades, but I guess 96 was a little bit later. I was a teenager at that point. So, in any event, fired up Metal Slug 1, and playing through 1 became playing through 2 and 3, and all the way up to Metal Slug XX, which I believe was the last one, and I found that on Xbox Live Arcade. So, I just spent Friday night and Saturday playing the series, and, I always loved Metal Slug, and going back to it, boy, the art just stands out. It's some of the best 2D art and animation that, of that era. And I think, for my money, it's the best run-and-gun game of all time. It may not be kind of like Contra, as difficult as Contra or Gunstar Heroes or things like that, but just from a pure fun factor. And just to watch the frenetic action on the screen, it is an absolutely incredible series. I think it doesn't get its due, certainly in the wider gaming hobby. Those of us who grew up with it, obviously, we're familiar with its brilliance. But yeah, Metal Slug is just one of those special games, and I think we forget about that. But do yourself a favor and sit down. It's easy to get into. It's quick to finish. And again, it's not overly difficult. Just a wonderful, wonderful series. So as we moved further through the weekend, Saturday night into Sunday, I hadn't turned on my Xbox One for a while, and I had downloaded the Halo Master Chief Anniversary Collection. For whatever reason, I had only played a little bit of 3, but I wanted to see what, I guess I got it because it was Xbox One enhanced. And I decided to play the original Halo. And it is absolutely gorgeous. The Xbox One enhancements, the textures that they put in the game, it really brings out the grand world and the grand map designs that Halo is famous for. And of course, the first game was, I think, another sleeper classic. I remember playing it at my friend's house. He got the Xbox, and I believe Halo was a launch game, and he had it on. In any event, he got Halo when it launched, and it was just new and different and felt bigger. And it also felt, very technical. It felt, like the gunplay was faster. The enemies moved in these kind of fast tactical patterns, and you had to I felt, coming from Doom and Quake and Unreal Tournament, it just felt like it took another level of skill, and it was just more impressive. I got my Xbox a couple of years later and certainly picked up Halo for the console. Played it, believe all the way through, but I haven't touched it in 10 or 15 years at this point. And just going back to it made me appreciate Halo in a way that I hadn't before. I was just, Halo's a shooter, and it's a good shooter, but of course we've been inundated with first-person shooter games for the past decade, and they've kind of lost their luster for me. But I guess we're at the point now where Halo is nostalgic. And when I played it this time, and I connected it up to my projector, so I was playing it on this 120-inch screen, surround sound, and just kind of got enveloped in the world and how much the art and the design comes out in this new version. So I think it's certainly given me a new appreciation for Halo. I always thought Halo, it was Microsoft's game. I thought they tried to develop this crazy, sci-fi narrative that ultimately never worked. They tried to make it bigger and more important than I think it really was. I think at its core, it's just a very good shooter game, perhaps one of the best examples of the FPS genre, and I'm fine with it being just that. And like I said, when you see these level designs, smooth 60 frames per second, you really appreciate all that went into the game. So if you can pick this up, I know it's a little bit hard to find on a physical copy, but you can download it for from Xbox Live, and I think it is really, if you liked Halo and haven't gone back to it in a long time, I do think it is worth a purchase. And leading into the weekend, of course, we had the announcement that Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was going to be re-released on the Switch. And though I'm a fairly adamant critic of the Nintendo Switch, that got me thinking, boy, I think I may pick one up for that game. That game is a very special place in my gaming history. It's one of my favorite gaming experiences. In fact, I recall getting this game February, I think, of 1994, thereabout. Also stuck home in a blizzard and sort of played it through a weekend and maybe into a Monday or Tuesday. And so I have this, it just has this great nostalgia for me, and it's a great game. So I had downloaded the DX version of it for my 3DS, fired that up, started playing it again, said, you know what, if I play through this game, I'm not going to buy the new one. And because I can't, play a game back to back. So I just turned it off and noticed I had also downloaded Legend of Zelda Oracle of the Seasons, which I believe was put out by Capcom, but it's structurally very similar to Link's Awakening, uses the same assets, same great gameplay, and so I had never played that. Turned that game on and got into that, and of course it gave me that nostalgic kick of Link's Awakening, but I just hadn't discovered this game. And playing it, it highlighted why Link's Awakening was so good, because I think it created this perfect little world that you can hold in the palm of your hand. The design is very intricate. It has that classic Legend of Zelda challenge, but something about the compact nature. I think Link's Awakening and then also the Pokemon game showed that you could have a really full-fledged RPG experience in handheld form, at least, for Nintendo Game Boy owners. And there was Final Fantasy and there was Secret of Mana before that, in that series. I think they came out over here as Final Fantasy, and they were okay. But nothing like Legend of Zelda and then Pokemon to follow as the full RPG experience. Okay, Zelda's not an RPG in kind of the technical sense, but as an adventure game, as a top-down adventure game, really, really excellent. And so I haven't played enough of Oracle of Seasons to say, is it on that level with Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but it gives you that feeling, at least for me, that sort of warm, nostalgic feeling. And it was also interesting, this is the first traditional Zelda game that I've played since playing Breath of the Wild. And I was critical of Breath of the Wild, some of its game design decisions. I don't think it was the best game ever made. but I think it is an incredible Zelda game. And going back to one of the older ones, it is amazing how Breath of the Wild took these classic, gameplay loops in Zelda and, fleshed them out and reimagine them in this new and incredible world. And yet somehow what you did in Breath of the Wild was still classically Zelda. So I just appreciated, I think, Breath of the Wild more now that I went back and played one of the classic games, and I'm still very geared up for the re-release of Link's Awakening on the Switch. So, for me, it was the first time in a long time that I have really been absorbed in video gaming, in the sense that, not just playing an hour here or there, but really sinking some time into some excellent games. And I think that is why you collect. That is why you have a collection, because you never know when you're going to have the time to just go into the collection, pull something out, and be captured by it. And I think that's why I still have held on to the collection after all these years. It is, I think, one of the benefits of having an easily accessible library of great games. You never know where it's going to take you, and sometimes you have the right combination of free time, you find the right game, and you can still have a very special experience.